Hello everyone, welcome to Just Invest Today, and today we are talking about George Soros. Man, he just came out and said investing in China is a huge mistake. Alibaba, Tencent, all these tech companies, and you invest in these tech companies, you will go broke. You are making a huge mistake. This was George Soros, man. So he came out and said this. We already know George Soros, billionaire investor. He made a lot of money in the stock market. Whatever. You can do his background check on him. But we understand. We have to kind of dig a little deeper into this George Soros guy. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people may like him. A lot of people don't like him. People think maybe he has an alternate agenda. What do you guys think about George Soros? Because I hear a lot of bad things about him. I want to bring up a few, and the thing is too, he might have put options against China right now. I wouldn't doubt it. You know he's a big short seller in a lot of things, right? So you have to understand maybe he has an alternate motive. I wouldn't be surprised. What do you guys think about that? But I was reading some of the comments about George Soros, and I've heard this before, but we gotta listen to some remarks he may have said, and he probably have said in the past. So, I want to go through these two comments that were said by people like talking about George Soros and what he's saying. But honestly, in this video, we're gonna break down this article because he definitely came out against China, against everything they're doing basically. So we're gonna see if we can kind of counteract that because we already know on this channel we invested heavily in China, right? So we have to kind of refute his points to see if is Alibaba, Tencent, PDD, are these good investments going into the future, or should we get out of Alibaba? We have to always decide that. We always have to make our judgments, and we should be open to see the opposite point of view of people making their opinions because it's only right to do. We don't want to be stuck in our ways. That's the worst thing you can do in investing. If we made a mistake on Alibaba, we have to sell out, guys. We have to put our pride to the side, sell, even if it's a whatever, $10,000, $15,000, $1,000 loss. We gotta put our pride to the side and sell out of Alibaba if it was a mistake, right? Or if it goes against your views. So let's get into this video. But before us, we're gonna listen to a few comments George Soros said. So these were quotes published by some person on this forum. So I want to see. This is what he said. The main enemy of the open society, I believe, is no longer the communists, but the capitalist threat. So George Soros is against capitalists now, and he's one of the biggest capitalists? That's just weird. So I am surprised Soros is criticizing a fellow woke hedge fund leader for propping up socialism in China while his fund groups in US who denounce capitalism. Soros has also been a major beneficiary of groups fighting our criminal justice system. The result? The election of liberals who defund the police and prosecutors who refuse to prosecute felons, resulting in an escalation of homicides and other property crimes in the US. So there is a lot of comments against George Soros. You can just Google, read them up. There's been a lot of talk about George Soros. So there's a little background on him. I didn't really give it the investment background. You probably already know about George Soros. So, but let's get into this article. Let's get into this opinion-based article to see, is he right? Is he wrong? What can we glean from his comments about China and investing in China? So let's get into this video. But before we do, guys, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm providing so much good content for you. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Can you help me out, please? I'll appreciate it so much. So, BlackRock's China's blunder. Pouring billions into the country now is a bad investment in Imperial's U.S. national security. So BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has begun a major initiative in China. On August 30th, it launched a set of mutual funds and other investment products for Chinese consumers. So yeah, they got into China. They're starting up a mutual fund, and it's the first of its kind. China is allowing a U.S. company to kind of go into China and start a mutual fund. This is very interesting and surprising, man. Like, who would have thought China would allow that to happen, to invest in their economy like that and actually set up an investment location there? So it's the first of its kind, and people are kind of, they don't know what side to be on now because this is just starting to happen. So the launch came just weeks after BlackRock recommended that investors triple their allocations in Chinese assets. This will push billions of dollars into China. The Chinese market represents a significant opportunity to help meet the long-term goals of investors in China and internationally. So this is what I was been saying, that China is not against foreign investors, and this should highlight that even more. Why would they allow this if they're so against China? Why would they allow the VIE structure if they're so against it? So this is just shows you that China wants this foreign investments to come in and invest in these Chinese companies using VIE structure. So that's very interesting. The firm seems to have taken the statements of Mr. Xi's regime at face value, has drawn a distinction between state-owned enterprises, privately owned companies, but that is far from reality. The regime regards all Chinese companies as instruments of a one-party state. So those are big words. So basically, George Soros is saying that there's no private companies really. It's all part of this one-party state, and you have to abide by the rules. We understand pretty much that is probably in line with what China wants and how China is running their economy. But if you think about it, it's been really successful up until now. Like, they have that theory in mind, but they do have private businesses. If you think about it, they do have separate private entities, but they have to follow under the guide of the Chinese economy. And think about it, China is like the fastest growing economy. So wait, are you saying that's a bad thing right now, or it's gonna cause some kind of issues moving forward? Who knows? But it seems to be working pretty fine to me. So let's continue. The BlackRock managers must be aware that there is an enormous crisis brewing in China's real estate market. Okay, I feel like in this real estate market everywhere is in a crisis. US, Canada, Europe, like, we see what's going on in real estate and the prices going up and people are not able to buy homes. Interest rates are all-time low. Like, I feel like real estate is a huge factor everywhere. So this is not just a China thing. They may believe that investment funds flowing into China will help Mr. Xi handle the situation, but the president's problems go much deeper. China's birth rate is much lower than official statistics indicate, and Mr. Xi's attempt to increase it have made matters worse. Birth rates everywhere. Yeah, China definitely has a birth rate problem, and they're trying to fix it. That's why they're stopping the private tutoring, so parents are actually motivated to actually have more kids and don't have to worry about costs. But birth rates everywhere, if you think about it, are declining. Everywhere, like, people are not having kids as much as before. That's why immigration is such a huge thing for countries. But that's the thing about China. China doesn't really rely on probably immigration as much, but that's why everywhere is relying on immigration to get the population back on its terms. This is everywhere. This is not just a China thing. Again, the president recently launched his Common Prosperity Program, which is fundamental change in direction. It seeks to reduce inequality by distributing the wealth of the rich to the general population. Who cares? Why does that matter? Foreign investors are really greedy. They want the profits all to themselves. Think about it. The government actually has been allowing these tech giants. They've been giving the tech giants like influence and money to help prosper the country. So it's only fair that they start paying more taxes now that they're very established, helping the people not on the same status as them. And when you think about that, you're helping people move from poverty to middle class, which would just help the companies because you have more disposable income. So it's going to fuel a system which is just going to help increase these companies as people come out of poverty into the middle class, spending more money. Because when you have more disposable income, you're going to spend more money. So these companies helping lower tier systems and lower tier cities will just prop up the system even more. Am I wrong or right on that? Tell me down below. Tell me in the comments. Pouring billions of dollars into China now is a tragic mistake. is likely to lose money for BlackRock clients, and more important, will damage the national security interests of the US and other democracies. That's a fair point, maybe. We'll see. But if you think about that too, we have to work together. We understood China is what China is. They're not going to switch their political agenda now. We always knew what China was. So what, you just figuring this out now? It makes no sense. Like, why is this coming up now? Like, we always knew what China was and it never switched its stance. So it's interesting that he's making these statements now. Mr. Xi faces an important hurdle in 2022. Many believe he intends to overstep the terms lists established by Xi Jingping, and make himself ruler for life. This process has been unfolding in the past year and reached its crescendo in the recent weeks. This began with the abrupt cancellation of new issue of Alibaba Ant Group, November 2020, which was for a good reason. Alibaba was allowing lending to everyone. Literally, Ant was lending out and to anyone. It didn't matter. It didn't really matter about your credit. They were just lending out money with no backing because it wasn't operating as a banking system. So they were able to lend out money just incoherently without actually a backing of a financial backing in their system in case anything went awry. The government would have to lift Ant up. Didn't make sense, right? Then came to Didi after it floated an issue in the New York June. Things accumulated into a banishment of U.S. financed tutoring companies in China, which is not a. It kind of was harsh, but if you look at the overall picture, it wasn't a bad thing. If you think about it, if you think about what happened there, this has profoundly negative effect on the offshore markets, hammering New York listed Chinese companies and shell companies. Chinese financial authorities have tried to reassure markets ever since. BlackRock is only the latest company trying to engage with China. Earlier efforts could have been morally justified by claims that they were building bridges to bring the countries closer, but the situation now is totally different. Today, the US and China are engaged in a life and death conflict between two systems of governance, repressive and democratic. This is what I don't understand. We knew this again. We knew this all along. Like, what has really changed? The thing has, know what I think has really changed? Is that they're seeing how prosperous China is getting and how big the country is getting. People think that USA can be the most dominant power forever. Like, that's not how the world works. Like, if you think about it, there's always been a new dominant power throughout history. The US can't just stay number one. Like, if you think about it, like, US can't stay number one forever. I don't care how loyal you are to USA or like whatever, wherever you live. Even if China was, I would say the same thing. Even if China was number one, they couldn't be number one forever. USA would kind of take them over. And then when China becomes number one, if they do, India, some other country will take them over in another 200, 300, 400 years. No country is obligated to stay number one power forever. It just doesn't make sense. And history has proven that. Like, no country stays number one forever. And people are understanding that China is on the come up, and there's so much opportunity there that I guess George Soros sees it as a bad thing because it's a different political system. You think China, like, this is another thing too. Say USA and China never like cohabitated together, they never did anything. Do you really think that China wouldn't have gotten this big without USA? Like, do you think China needed USA to become this big? China would have traded with other countries. Both China and USA, they need each other for trade. Like, this is not like a one-way street thing. Like, China was on the rise. Like, just understand, like, the population of the people, how smart they are, technology they were using. The only thing that was holding them back was the system. And then once the system changed, all hell broke loose in China. So that's what the biggest thing was. Like, China was going to become this big even without USA. Like, even if USA helped them grow faster, China helped USA too. It's not a one-way street. You think all these big companies in USA wouldn't have been this big without all the labor in China, all the products, all the tech? It goes both ways, I see, in my view. They both need each other. You can't have two opposite big powers. Like, think about it. We have to come together. There's no way around it. Like, we can't have USA on this side and China on this side. Like, this is what this article is trying to say. Like, we need to separate each other from China. How is that going to benefit the world? Like, it just won't. China has nukes, USA has nukes. Like, where will this end up if we're just both at odds with each other, as two superpowers at odds with each other? How will that turn out? It's just gonna turn out bad, in my opinion. So I just don't see how we can just avoid China and close our eyes. What, USA is gonna invade China, or China's gonna invade USA? We don't want World War III. And it's gonna be World War III with nukes and bombs and shit. Like, this is a different type of war that we would go into it if we separate each other. So I don't think this is a good thing to kind of isolate China and isolate USA from each other. Like, it's just gonna end up very bad, in my opinion. Tell me what you think about this whole article, what George Soros has said. Do you do you agree with George Soros somewhat? I know a lot of people agree with George Soros, saying we need to separate from China, but I just don't see how that's gonna benefit moving forward and for the world. Like, you can't avoid that economy and how fast they're growing and what they're doing. It's just too big to avoid, or too big to be kind of fight against. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So tell me what you think about this, man. If you're against what I'm saying, if you're for what I'm saying, your opinion on the matter. Is George Soros right? Am I wrong? Is Alibaba and Tencent, they're not going to become strong companies? Like, we shouldn't invest in them because they do bad things. What is your opinion on this, man? Tell me down below. Like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll get back to you in the next video. Peace!